Hello, my name is Alex Gwynn. I'm a paper engineer with over a decade of experience designing paper toys and paper crafts, and these are slot together promotional toys for the upcoming Mario Brothers movie that have been released in McDonald's Happy Meals. This isn't McDonald's first attempt at paper toys, but I think it's by far the best set they've released so far, and I wanted to make a video showing off some of the designs, explaining the paper engineering involved, and talking a little bit about what I think works, what I think could be improved upon, and discuss some of the smaller design features on display that might otherwise be overlooked. So this video is kind of a reaction, it's a bit of a review, and it's a bit of a deep dive. There are 12 slot together toys available in this line. After spending a frankly embarrassing amount of time going to different locations, I was able to get my hands on 6 of them. The set is split into 2 styles, more complex go-kart builds and these character spinners. Let's take a closer look at the packaging, materials and engineering before taking a step back to look at the toy line as a whole. The toys come inside Happy Meal boxes and within their own self-contained box. These have a gloss finish on the outside which does a really good job of keeping the pieces inside safe from grease or condensation that the meals themselves might produce. It's great to see a solution that sticks to paper-based materials instead of taking the easy option of just putting all the paper pieces inside of a plastic bag. The pieces themselves are left loose inside the box, which is a really small thing, but is pretty revolutionary when you stop and think about it. One of the main limitations you're fighting against as a papercraft designer is page space. The size of the toy you can make is limited by the size of the page you can print it onto, and in the case of a Happy Meal toy, that would have to fit inside the box, which would mean it either has to be very small or spread across multiple pages. By simply removing the page that these pieces come from, they've sidestepped this problem completely. They don't need to worry about the size of the page that all of these pieces pop out from, because the rest of the page isn't in the box, and in turn, because the end user isn't popping the pieces out themselves, they've removed a potential point of failure where the pieces might tear or snag whilst being pushed out. They don't have to worry about the size of the page, just the size of each individual piece, and as a result, a lot of these toys are quite big, they're quite chunky. Providing just the cutout parts isn't anything new, it's something that we've seen in smaller scale maker kits for a while. For example, here's one of Matt Hawkins' papercraft kits, which includes pre-cut pieces and paper straws, but this might be the most mainstream instance of this I've seen, and I think it solved so many problems that it's definitely worth paying attention to. The material of these toys is really nice, it's super thick and sturdy, it feels almost like a dense fiberboard. But upon closer inspection, you can see the layers of the card that have been pressed together. One of the major problems you can encounter with thicker printed board like this is the graphics layers peeling away at the corners, especially in areas that push up against one another like connection points. But that doesn't seem to be an issue with these Mario toys. The top and bottom layers are fixed in place. The material is so nice. I like it. The material really nice. I hope we see a lot more of this used in the future. Each piece that slots together has a coloured dot, which corresponds to the piece that it needs to slot into. So red goes to red, yellow goes to yellow, and so on. It's simple and effective, especially when paired with the provided instruction diagrams, but I do worry how effective this system would be for someone who is colourblind. Perhaps the builds themselves are so simple that the diagrams alone will be enough, and I'm overthinking it. Okay, finally, let's talk about how these pieces slot together, because seeing this was the thing that convinced me I needed to make a dedicated video. The pieces don't use a standard slot together technique. Instead of being a straight line which slides into another matching slot, the slots are bendy and curvy. This isn't a design mistake or a manufacturing error, this is actually a genius building technique, and I'm going to do my best to explain why. When you're designing a slot together toy, you're effectively using friction to hold everything together. If the slots are too loose, the pieces will fall apart, and if they're too tight, you'll damage the pieces when you're putting them together. 1/10 of a millimeter can be all it takes to make or break a slot together product, and that's the kind of margin for error that can easily be introduced during the die manufacturing or production process. You either have to work really hard to make sure the material and production are all perfect so that the amount of friction is just right, or you have to find an alternative way of locking the pieces together that doesn't rely on friction quite as much. These curvy slots are larger than the thickness of the material, so at first they seem quite loose, but the curve itself acts to squeeze the pieces it's meeting between the bottom and top of the curve. This creates a lot of friction at a single point without adding in too much so that the material itself fails. There's instances in these sets where a curvy slot is used with a straight slot, and some where there are two curvy slots meeting each other, and they are brilliant. The grip these slots provide is super strong and reliable, and when the pieces are pushed together you can barely even see them, so there's no major aesthetic drawback. I love these slots. I want to see more curvy slots used in slot together products. From a purely selfish perspective, I hope that no one is patented these curvy slots because they're so brilliant they should be commonplace. If you know of any other products that use this style of slot, please do let me know in the comments. I'd love to track down the origin of this building technique. Now that I've geeked out about the materials, engineering and presentation, I want to share my thoughts on the final built toys. Let's start with the go-karts. They're really nice, they're really chunky, and they look great from the front and side. The textures on the pieces are really nice and slick. All of my criticisms are extremely minor and nitpicky, but I think it's a testament to how many things the designers have done right that my criticisms are over such minor details. As I said, the carts look nice from the front and sides, and that's true, but things do start to fall apart a bit when you look at them from any other angle though. From the top, they become an empty lattice, and all illusion that they're solid 3D objects evaporates. It would have been really nice if there were more horizontal panels to fill in the gaps on the front, just to make the design work from higher angles. I think, for example, that just switching these vertical panels near the front of the Toad and Mario Kart to be more of a horizontal angle would have made a lot of difference. Throughout the designs, you can see where the designers filled in the gaps with solid colours to help fill things out, and I think it worked really well. Your eyes just kind of gloss over these areas until you really start trying to pick them apart. I do wish that a similar cover was used over the top of some graphical elements to stop the same distinct textures appearing multiple times. For example, the fuel tank on the back of Mario ends up appearing in 4 places, and you can see all 4 instances at once, which can be a bit jarring. If the tank on the back of the driver's piece was covered over with a solid colour, I think it would help to sell the illusion a little better. They did that with the Toad cart. Here you can see that you can't see the wheel graphic underneath the wheel, and I think that looks a lot nicer. Like I said, these critiques are very minor, and both the lack of horizontal panels and multiple instances of a graphic can be further explained as a byproduct of designers having to work from stock. Okay, so my overall review of the Mario movie, Go-Kart, McDonald's Happy Meal toys is that they're pretty dang good. They're a huge leap ahead of some of McDonald's previous attempts at paper-based promotional toys such as their SpongeBob or Minions toys, and if this is the level of engineering and quality we can expect from their paper-based toys going forward, I'm really excited to see what the future holds. For quite a long time, behind closed doors, I've been saying to other paper toy designers that quite frankly, McDonald's should be embarrassing us all with their paper toys. Their designs and quality should be so good that it makes us all a little bit nervous. And I think this set of toys is the first time that made me feel that a little bit, and that's a good thing. That praise is reserved exclusively for the go-karts because the spinners don't get any of that praise. All of the issues I had with the go-karts are even more pronounced for the spinners. They were awkward to assemble. The lack of a graphic of what the character looks like from the back really makes them feel flat and cheap. The connections were a lot more fragile when the play feature needs it to be even more stable. Let's go! A design feature worth noting is that the spinners use multiple types of card. They use the thicker card seen in the go-karts, but also this thinner, more generic card for the pieces you knock over. And the box the pieces come in is perforated so that you can push it out and make a little backdrop, which is really nice. It's great to see the box itself get turned into part of the toy, and I'm glad that it's just kind of an extra additional piece rather than something vital to the toy, so that if it does get damaged by the food or in transit, it's not a big deal. Very cool. I like that. Okay, so this has been me geeking out about children's food toys. If you have any questions, please do leave them in the comments below and I'll do my best to answer any that I see. Making this video has made me want to get my hands on some previous paper-based Happy Meal toys McDonald's has released so I can put together a more comprehensive timeline of how they've improved. So I guess keep your eyes peeled for that. This video is dedicated to my partner, who came with me to several McDonald's and asked the people working there which children's food toy they had, because I didn't feel confident enough to do it myself. Thank you, I love you, and I'm sorry that I'm like this. How embarrassing.